August 10th. Can't sleep. Feel like I'm being watched constantly, even in the tower, especially in the tower. Something is out there, or maybe it's in here now. That was the second last entry. The last one was even worse. The handwriting was jagged, almost illegible. August 12th. It knows. Leaving tomorrow. Can't stay. Ben dropped the notebook like it was on fire. A cold dread swept through him, colder than the mountain air outside. Henderson hadn't just left because the quiet got to him. He fled the same whispers, the same feeling of being watched, the same chilling voice on the radio. It wasn't just in Ben's head. It was real, but knowing that didn't bring comfort. It brought terror. Things escalated after Ben found that logbook. The whispers in the wind got clearer. Sometimes they were just sounds, but other times they formed actual words. Words that didn't make sense, but occasionally terrifyingly familiar ones. Voices from his past, his ex-girlfriend, his mother, or even his own voice, warped and twisted by the wind, as if the mountain had learned to speak in memories. One afternoon, while scanning the horizon from the tower, he heard a sound. Tap, tap, tap. It was coming from the window, 60 feet above the ground. Ben froze. His heart thudded against his chest. He turned slowly. Nothing, just the sky, the catwalk. He leaned out cautiously. No birds, no people, no movement. Then he checked the roof above through the ceiling hatch. Empty, but the tapping stopped just like that. After that, he started recording every radio call. He needed proof. One night, after Miller signed off from their evening check-in, Ben left the recorder running. Later, he played it back, hands trembling, and there it was, faint but unmistakable, a voice on the radio. After Miller had already signed off, Ben stopped sleeping in the lower cabin. The tower felt safer. At least he could see in every direction. But the safety was an illusion. Every gust of wind, every groan of metal, it all sounded wrong, like something trying to crawl inside. He wanted to leave, to abandon the post like Henderson. But a storm was forecasted, and it rolled in that night. The storm hit Shadow Ridge like a monster. Winds howled like wild things. Rain pounded the windows of the tower cabin. The whole structure swayed and creaked. Ben sat in total darkness, watching as lightning lit up the trees and the rain turned into white sheets. The radio crackled with nonstop static. He tried calling Miller. No response, just more interference. Then he heard it, not from the radio, not from the wind, from inside the cabin. A soft, dragging sound, like fabric brushing wood. Ben stopped breathing. He turned his head slowly toward the trapdoor on the floor. It led down the spiral metal stairs to the base of the tower. Then came the tapping again, but this time not on the window. It was coming from the trapdoor. The tapping got louder, harder, faster, as if something was trying to get in. Ben scrambled backward, tripping over his chair. His flashlight hit the floor, the beam swinging wildly. The tapping stopped. And then a voice, low, guttural, but clear, and it sounded exactly like Ranger Miller. Ben, you okay up there, son? Open the door. Let me in. Storm's bad. Ben screamed. Not a yell. A full body, soul deep primal scream. Because that was not Miller. Miller was miles away. And whatever was at that trapdoor, it was pretending to be his only contact, his only friend. It wasn't trying to help. It was trying to get in. Ben backed into the far wall, flashlight shaking in his hand. He kept it aimed at the trapdoor, breathing hard, trying not to cry. He stayed like that for hours. The storm outside raged on, and every so often there would be a shuffle or a soft tap, just enough to let him know it was still there. Eventually, exhaustion claimed him. He drifted off, not into sleep, but into a fog of nightmares and dread, unsure where the storm ended and the horror began. He awoke to silence. Bright sunlight streamed through the cabin windows. The air was clean. Still, the feeling, that awful presence, was gone. He crept to the trapdoor, listened, Nothing. He unbolted it slowly, heart pounding. Opened it. Nothing. Just a spiral staircase. Sunlight spilling down through the metal steps. Ben didn't hesitate. He nearly fell down the stairs, burst out of the tower, into the mud and branches and sharp morning air. He didn't stop. He didn't look back. He ran. Down the trail. Through the trees. Scratched. Soaked. Breathless. He needed to get away. Hours later, caked in mud and shaking, he reached the logging road where he'd left his truck. He fumbled for the keys. That's when a Forest Service Jeep pulled up. It was Miller. Miller stepped out and stared. Ben, what the hell happened? Missed your check-in. Storm knocked out comms most of the night. You look like you've seen a ghost. Ben didn't answer. He just cried. He never told Miller the truth. How do you explain whispers in the wind? Voices from the past? A mimic on the radio? A tapping on a steel trapdoor during a storm? How do you tell someone that's something wanted in? He quit that day, just like Henderson. He went back to the city, back to the noise, back to anything but silence. But the silence followed him. Now he gets anxious when the wind picks up. He avoids cabins, avoids remote towers. And sometimes, just sometimes, when there's static on the phone or a bad connection on the radio, he hears it again. The whisper, calling his name. Narrator, what was on Shadow Ridge? A hallucination brought on by isolation? A lingering spirit? Something else? Stories from rangers, hikers, and workers in remote regions often mention strange sounds, voices, footsteps, the feeling of being watched. Wilderness madness, they call it. Maybe that's all it was. Or maybe some places don't like to be watched. Maybe they watch back. Maybe they learn your name. Thank you for listening to this story on Charted Tales. If it gave you chills, share it. If you've ever felt something watching you, tell us in the comments. And whatever you do, next time you hear tapping in the dark, don't open the door. Subscribe for more stories from the edge of reality.